Hello everyone, my name is Hannah Salmons, and on this video I'm going to be starting a TED Talk, my very first TED Talk, so hopefully you guys enjoy it. It's about the pros and cons of education, on why it's good and why it's bad for some. So let's get started. My first question is why is education so important in every child's life? It's because everyone has so much expectations for their future kid. For example, when I was a child, it was very hard for me to learn because I traveled to so many states and I studied so hard to make sure I got my diploma. When I walked down the stage wearing that cap and gown, my mom was so proud of me because being the only daughter in the family was a first start because I was the first one to start college and the first one to start going in the medical field. That's why my mom was extremely proud of me. With that, I'm also a full-time worker. I work at a part-time retail, and I'm a caregiver to my mother. I take good care of her every day, and one reason I think education is important is because there's so much to do in your future. Now, I know some of you guys know that there is pros and cons of education. So, I know that a lot of the times that there is always good and bad things that can come out of education. So, we're gonna start from the pros first and go from there, because I know a lot of you guys worry about education, and it's just it's a deal breaker for a lot of people. So the first thing I want to say is in the U.S. In the U.S. it has education is one of the most popular places for so many diversities. Meaning, for so many countries, like, U.S. is the most populated colleges, schools, and like everyone graduates there. That's one reason, the U.S. has so much higher schooling and everything compared to other countries. There is so much opportunity in each state, and that's why so many countries come to the U.S. for that opportunity to get that degree. On a post from a U.S. education system, pros and cons, we make scholars, saying the U.S. may find a program in, and encourage students from all over the world to apply. That's why so many countries don't have that high education like we do. The US has so many opportunities to help others become successful in their lives. And that's one of the main priorities of education. Now, my cons are one of my cons are while so we're still in this virus, which makes it sad for so many of us, so many students out there. And so many students have to do online school, and I know it's very hard for so many families out there too. And what I want to say is the education is for the online education, it's been way harder than on ground students. So, because there are so many students that need so much support around them, and to help them graduate, to get that next step in life. And I know that a lot of people don't have that extra support, extra step to go further in life. And in an article on Psychology Today, there has been an average student view of data suggesting the negative impact for online studying. It's not just happening in the US. It's just happening it's happening across the country. And during this pandemic, it's been so hard for so many students across the countries to get good grades and pass their classes. I know that, like being online can be just a really struggle for so many of us, because we're not being around the students. We're not being around students or other people during this pandemic. It's just very hard for so many of us. That's why we all need to come together in these hard times, because we all know it's just hard to communicate, and just being virtually online and stuff. And so many students are not passing. They're getting bad grades because they're not getting to graduate or continue working, which is not good. So what I want to also say on my another pro is that online schooling is so much more different than in class. It has a lot of priorities. So saying this, it just helps so many students out. Like, for example, so they don't have to miss like the school bus, or if they don't have to ask for someone to give them a ride to school. So that actually helps a lot of students out. And the main priority is it helps them, like have extra time for their homework assignments, and have extra time to be with their family. And in an article from Nova saying students catch up more with their breaks between the online classes, and it just helps it helps a lot of children and teens and college students, to help them have more time on their hands to study more and relax on certain levels. And it's just, that's one of the main priorities. And with laptops and computers, we have so much opportunities to with so much technology. It's just a greater aspect of so many students that need to finish school. And we should all just be amazed on how far we came compared to how far we were in the past. And alright, so my last con, and what I want to speak about, is that so many of us aren't tech navy about computers, laptops, tablets, homework, grading online. There is so many of the older generation. It's much more harder for them to go online and figure so much of this technology, because they're not used to it. And we need to understand that being in this pandemic, it's just more harder for them to understand. They can't communicate with their family members because they don't know how to go on their emails, or check online, like go online and stuff. It's just more harder for them. And because they're so used to interacting in person and not being by themselves and staying at home. And there's a source on the Bronx Journal that so many professors had so much trouble experimenting on the electronic devices during the pandemic. It has changed so many of our lives around the world, which can make it harder for those to understand technology. And where I go from there, it's just, it's much more harder for the older generation than the younger generation, because the younger generation knows much more about technology than the older generation. And I wanted to say on my conclusion that we all expect to have education in our life. When we start maturing as young infants, we all need to learn how to speak and learn languages. Now with this COVID-19, it's been just much more harder for some and easier for most. But with online work, it's just and online assignments and everything, not many people can understand this, because there's so much priorities in education during this dark times. Like, we have so much going on in the world. It's so hard, to understand. And some people think it's might have it easy, and while others just have it more harder to understand because they're not interacting with everyone. And we just should all be thankful that we have technology during these times with COVID-19 going around. We must stick together and just hope and pray we can get through this, because even if we do or don't, we still need to interact with one another. And I just think that, like, we all need education no matter what, even if it's just learning as a child or an infant, or in school, high school, and graduating. And we all need education no matter what. Education just helps everyone out, and learning new things can help so many of us. It's a blessing to actually go to college, and I understand that. So hopefully you guys enjoy this, and I wanted to thank you for listening, and have a great day.